Hello, everyone, and thank you for being here in this new episode of our podcast. Today we have Simon Wong. I met him, a few days back, and we're talking about some of his experiences and the stuff that he's done in accounting, financial services, real estate specifically. Thank you for being here, and thank you for joining us, Simon.
Oh, thank you for having me, Oscar. I'm glad to be here.
Of course, my pleasure. Just so that I'm not the one telling your story, I'd like to ask can you tell us a little bit more about you, your company, and what you do in it?
So I own multiple businesses, but mainly my biggest one is the accounting properties, where we focus in handling property management or real estate investors' books. So the property management side is on their property level, and the landlords or real estate investors do on the corporate side. So I'm doing both of the corporate and property level. And I also have a CFO LLC where I consulting for others. That's what CFO stands for. And we consult for, real estate investors on analyzing their deals or how to grow their property management, just to get the ball, rolling and to just help them scale. For me personally, I've been in real estate accounting specifically for a little bit more than 20 years now. So it's been a wild journey. I've had experiences from doing retail office to hotels, self-service storage, to affordable housing, shopping centers, condominiums, specifically when the condominium was actually working for Trump. And I was also a developmental controller. So, in construction, basically in the Bronx mainly. And then I also worked in a property management company where the owner was a broker, owned a title company, a construction company, and a syndication, like a capital fund company that I was basically all involved with. So, and then I just, had my own, now it became my main thing because I hustled a lot for many years. And then finally to a point where I'm not reliant on a, 9 to 5 kind of job. So that's a little bit about myself and what I do.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Simon. From what you're saying right now, we talked before, you've had quite a journey, right, in real estate accounting. And I know that you actually started, as a CPA. Could you just walk us through a little bit of how you got started in the field and how you ended up today here where you are?
So, right, I'm no longer an active CPA. It was just one of those things where, I went to school, college, and I went to multiple colleges, by the way. So I'm not one of those really, really smart guys for, book education, like the book smart type. But, I was very determined and stubborn about, what I want. And I think that was a key thing. If I followed all the classmates that I had, I would have probably switched over to finance or something else completely different. But I stuck with accounting. And, the thing is, when you're in school, when you have no, I guess, real experience in the working outside world, the professors will tell you, you got to go for your CPA. You got to go for your CPA for if you want to get promoted to certain things and all this stuff like that. And I never really cared about that. I'm more of like a rebel kind of person. So when someone tells me to do something because of something, I don't really want to go for it. But I did fall into it. And, I kind of like a peer pressure thing, got it. Taking the 4 exam was not exactly fun, right? That was all memorizations. But I would say that, once I got into that and I worked on some, it helped in terms of getting a little bit more recognition because of that paper, right? But I just shied away from it because deep down inside, I wanted to do business. I just want to learn everything about a business. And by being a CPA, I could only see the general aspect of something. If I were to, replicate a business, just doing taxes and kind of giving advice does not exactly help to know the operational side. So I really want to get in the operational side and understand every aspect of a business, because when you're talking about accounting, I would say one of the best things to really learn is, at least for me, was the bank recs. Bank rec, because you look at the bank statement, credit cards, you know the expenses, you know how monies are coming in. And once you know those, like kind of structure, you can start questioning to the different departments and really build that foundation and understand it. And I think that's a big thing that a lot of professors don't teach that, that's kind of something like a learned experience. So that was my transition to it. And I just fell in love with real estate. And I would think that a lot of things happen for a reason is, because I've been to so many colleges, I didn't really had a real career until I got out of college, right? And I spent a lot of years, versus all my peers at my age were already working, right? And I hear them, they're working for the big four. At 11 p.m., they're still at the office. And that's something like, that's not what I want to do. But if I have to get my foot through the door, then I have to go for my CPA kind of situation. But that's really the aspect of things. I just wanted to learn everything about real estate. And it just so happened as soon as I graduated, I quickly got a job as, starting at the junior level, entry level of an staff accountant at a real estate firm. And I was fine with it, because it was just something that gave me an opportunity to even step foot in the real estate world. That's how it started. So pretty much it.
Thank you for that. That's quite an explanation. You already touched upon it a little bit, but that was gonna be my next question, which is why real estate, right? Like, was it something that you learned from a very young age that you were interested in? Did you stumble upon it, or what made you interested in specializing right in real estate?
I think it's because I've always wanted to be in business. I read books, right? I was 14 when my friend told me to buy this book, Think Rich and Grow Big. So, I was reading it, didn't truly understand the meaning behind it, but it was just like storytelling and stuff. I started reading all these kind of self-help book, I guess, some kind of motivational books. And, they say like wealth is one of the biggest things that wealth is actually from real estate. So that kind of got me intrigued. I started reading more books about real estate. And that's really how I just kind of fell into it. When I was young, I didn't have that. I didn't know which direction of business I wanted to get into. And accounting, funny enough, wasn't even my career choice. I was actually in a technical high school, so I learned C++, advanced C++, and then I got accepted in New York. There was Baruch College, which is known for accounting, and then there's Polytech University, where they're known for like computer science and stuff like that, and I went with computer science. That's why I'm a little tech savvy in that, but then I just realized, computers was just a hobby for me. I don't want to turn it into a job, but I always wanted to do business. So I just took a business course, business management, and prerequisite was an accounting 101. And funny enough, I was sleeping in that class, but I still aced it. They were like, maybe this is your calling. If you can sleep through a course and still get A's, I mean, this is maybe what you do. I was like, all right, I don't want to fall into the whole Asian and math, but it's true. Listen, I can laugh.
No one was thinking about that. No one ever thought about that.
But that's how I saw it, right? Because everybody was, especially in New York, it was back in the, you're talking about the early 2000s. So everybody's like, oh, you're good at math. It's like, yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
But,
that's
yeah,
one
that's how I
thing.
got into real estate, and I love it. I love real estate. It's just something that I've also seen in the world. I've had potential clients, and people I talked to. One is an actor, and he told me Hollywood is all about backstabbing. Everybody wants to be the main character, so they backstab each other a lot. Where in real estate, everybody's willing to help each other. So and for me, I'm the type of person who wants to help people. This is kind of like a little off topic here, but I've always stood up for I stood up against bullying for other people. That was kind of my nature. So in a way, I just want to help people. So, and I saw real estate as a thing where everybody can get into, as long as they have the right tools, the right mindset, and right team. It's all about helping. That's for me.
Yeah, I agree. My dad is in construction. He's been in construction all of his life. So I can definitely, resonate with a lot of things that you're saying. I think, that when you go into an industry that you start thinking in terms of not wanting to own 100% of the pie, right? Of a small pie, but rather owning a smaller percentage of a way larger pie.
Right.
Just things just happen, right?
Yeah.
And you start evolving, and also naturally you start going after bigger pies, right? But at the end of the day, you know that you're a part of that team. I mean, funny enough, right? You already mentioned it. We talked about it last time that we spoke. You got into pretty much, you went after the top of mind in New York real estate, right? When you started working for the Trump organization. So can you tell me a little bit more about what you did there and what you learned?
Yes. So when I got in, it was before his first run for being president for the first time. When I got in, I had to handle his portfolio of like about 8 condominiums, and then I had speared with a project of dealing with architecture. They have an architecture, so whenever they're fixing the condominiums or whatever, doing the layouts, the owners, not Trump or anybody, like not investors, but owners of the condominium, they would have to pay, to the architect. But then Trump organization was acting like more of an escrow. So I was kind of overseeing all of that to make sure billings were done correctly and people are making sure that, they're whatever they need to pay, right? So I was kind of be like the mediator in that sense and handling that. I was also involved with handling his personal financials. So basically his balance sheet. And I'll tell you a little funny story later, I also, when he announced for his presidency, I had the opportunity and spearheaded with the whole contributions, that charity work that he has done for the past 5 years since I was there.
Yep.
And it was a lot of work. I mean, and it was going to be, it was like my very first project too, coming in. And, they say like, yeah, don't mess this up because this is going out to all the outlets. And he's like, no pressure though.
Just give it to the new guy, but no pressure. Sure.
No pressure. But I did that, and I have to say that I loved working there. Everybody was really, fantastic. They treated everybody well, not like what the media portrays out there. So it was interesting, and everybody I've interacted. Majority of the people were working there for 25 plus years. And,
Wow.
that just tells me that, there's something that they love working there for. And then when I was there, I actually felt that. I felt that. And when I went there, I didn't feel like it was work. I actually enjoyed waking up and going there, even at a two-hour commute. Even though it was a 2-hour commute for me, I still did it just because it was fun working there. But I had an opportunity to become a shopping center property controller. So I took that chance, I took that opportunity. But I told them that, I was going to, I said, I love real estate. So if there's an opportunity, I will jump over, and that's what happened. So I was very honest, transparent about it. But yeah, that was pretty much it.
Okay. And that was actually, you're one step ahead of me in terms of the questions, because that was going to be the next question is, so going from a company, as big and as recognized as Trump's, and then starting your own business, right? While at the same time you just said, there's been people, I saw people there that had been working for 20, 25 years. Like, what made you make that jump, right? What made you start your own business after being there, right? In such a big organization with so many people that had been there for so long.
Yeah. So I guess I never looked at any company that I work for as loyal as I may be when I'm working there. First things first is I'm most loyal to myself, right?
Okay.
And I got to make sure that I don't lose sight of what my goal is. And I feel that it's great working for a company if it's for you. Like if it's, everybody has their own way. If they want to work paycheck to paycheck, and they feel comfortable, that's fine. But for me, it wasn't like that. I was always have that drive to just have my own business. Whether I have to work 80 hours and, more than regular CPA does, I would still do it because it's my own self accomplishment that it's all my work putting in there. So I never really, I would just look at every opportunity I had. I'm grateful for that it shaped me, gave me the experience that if I were to work, as a regular, because I had sorry, this is gonna sound like I'm trying to think of the words to say, but as I have that drive to learn everything that I can about, starting my own business, whatever. I'm more willing to just go to different places and really just understand. I go there to do a job and do it well because I have my own reason to make sure that if I can do my job well, I know I can bring that in to my own business. So
Okay.
I mean, every place I work, I've learned something. So I don't take it very lightly on that.
But I actually admire and respect that. I'm a very similar way, right? If you can just go through your life experiences, right, whether that's school or business or a job or whatever, you can learn and take those lessons with you, right? Not only to do a better job somewhere else, but also, or have, or implement those lessons in your business, but also to know what it is that you like and that you don't like, right? And what the path for your life is that you might want to take. I think that's just more power to you, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to go about it.
Yeah,
I think that if you're not learning, what's the point of being somewhere if you're not learning?
Right. One of the biggest things I've always said is and this is for everybody, when you work at a place and let's say you decide to move to work at another place, the value that you bring in, with the next employer, they're hiring you for your experience from your previous employers, right? And what you need to bring in is what not to do, because everybody know what to do. It's what not to do. And I think by knowing that gives you, a high advantage on anything that you're going to be doing in the future, whether it's your business or working for an employer to help them grow, and you want to grow with them, maybe till retirement. But it's creativity is one thing, but like if you take all the experience you had and understand what not to do, that is the biggest piece, because you're going to keep the business floating. You're going to keep it, you're not going to sink it because you're not doing all the wrong things. And that's how I look at everything that I'm doing. And yeah, I think that's one of the biggest pieces that I think everyone should really pay attention to, wherever they're working. Look at what not to do.
I agree. And as you were saying that, actually, it reminded me, I don't remember the exact quote, but it reminded me of a quote by Bruce Lee, where he's talking about not adding, but subtracting, right? And I think the main point of that was that sometimes it's not about adding to your skills, right? Or adding more stuff to your arsenal, right? It's more about unlearning the things that are not helping you get to where you want to go, right? I think a lot of the times we, for some reason or another, whether it's in our house, at school, with our friends, right, or at work, we pick up skills or we pick up habits that are not helpful to us. And I think that a lot of the times it's about unlearning the bad stuff and keeping the good stuff that we already have. I was a huge Bruce Lee fan when I was little.
I'm a massive Bruce Lee fan.
Yeah, so it kind of, some things resonate, but I don't remember the exact quote.
Quotes he has, but I know which one. It's basically one where, like, when he's learning, studying all these different martial arts, and he's basically taking only what's
Exactly. That's yeah, that is so
probably
correct.
not the fancy stuff, right? He throws it and goes like, you have to be direct. Just be direct with it.
And that's why he came up with Jeet Kune Do, right? Like he took the best of boxing, the best of Kung Fu, the best of Wing Chun, and now we have Jeet Kune Do.
Yep.
So that's awesome. Thank you for that. I would have not been able to sleep if I didn't remember what it was. And just changing a little bit the subject, right? So you've talked about all of the things that you've done so far and how you ended up doing, stuff for yourself. And we just talked about also, taking the things that matter and that are good and disposing of the bad. So that means really getting to know yourself so that you know what stuff is important stuff to do. And with this, that's kind of like the background for the next question, which is, you mentioned you have several businesses, right? And what are you responsible for on a day-to-day basis on those businesses? And how do you know what's the important stuff to take care of?
Well, first things first is they're all important.
Okay.
They're all important. Accounting properties is the main accounting for everything else, the CFO. I have a construction company that I partner up with. So the construction side, I don't need to handle so much of it, is because I rely on my team. Right. And, there's the first, in the beginning there, you have some kind of training to show them the ropes. But for me, it was more of, I just kind of show it and kind of let you run with it. I don't really have to worry so much about it anymore. In terms of having different clients, but I told you last time, I don't look at them as clients. I look at them as partners until they do something to make me feel like, okay, you're a client, not a partner. Then I'm going to be very, very different about it. But I treat them all as partners. But there's different level of partnerships, right? There's going to be someone, if you look at it, if there's someone who's put in 60% of, then you're going to have to cater more 60% and versus someone who's, on the 30%. So I look at it as the type of partner, who's bringing more value in. It's not that I don't, even with the smaller, clients I have, I don't ignore them or anything like that. I still, one thing I mentioned this last time, that one thing I do is be very responsive to everyone. I pride myself in that because I did find a common denominator when all these clients came to me. The biggest hurdle that they have is communication with their bookkeeper or CPA. And I don't want that to happen to me. I'm going to take you guys on, but then I don't want to ghost you, and then you're going to go find someone else, secretly. It's like the silent quitting, right? Where people who are just quitting and without notice. I don't want to happen, because there's got to be communications. I don't have specific, who do I do things first. They're going to have to be on equal time in terms of, I put them on my calendar. So there will be days I'm going to do one client's work and other days I'm going to do another client's work. I'm in the middle of, looking to delegate some work, because I'm at to a point where I'm probably going to get a lot more clients, and, I'm a one man doing this, and I can't, I know my strength and I know my weakness. And the thing is, being very stubborn as my nature, I think a lot of accountants are kind of stubborn because we like to find the pennies.
Yeah.
So stubbornness is one thing, I'm I can do all the work if I really want to, but I'll be sitting in front of the computer every single day for 14 hours a day. And I just can't. And not because my mind can't, it's my body can't. My back won't allow it.
I know how it is. I know that is.
Okay, so, and that's the thing. I just got to make sure my calendars, my task management is on top of everything. I don't treat any clients or partners different. If you're paying at the low tier versus the high tier, I'm still going to treat everybody equally. But my time might be more focused on the bigger clients, because it's just that they're going to have more work to do. But I make sure that everybody meets their deadlines. I meet the deadlines that they're requesting for. So I don't sway from that ever. And I would
Yeah.
have to, it's just about time management, honestly. And with me, it was like, I can move fast. I can do things a lot faster than the typical person, because I was in, computer science, and I can type really fast. So, I move things. I try not using the mouse. So I just do things really fast. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't have a set priority for certain people. I just know what needs to be done, and I'll have to do it. I think also because I started out as a staff accountant, and then gradually became a controller and a CFO, it built my experience on how to actually do things in a quicker, more streamlined, efficient way. So I think that's something that I wouldn't have been able to learn if I were to just get into starting a business without the experience. So, and I think experience is one of the biggest, things that everybody should learn. Whether you want to start a job, start a company, I think you still got to go out there and learn it. You can't just think of theories and just roll with it. And that's why a lot of businesses fail, right? Because they just think of a theory and just kind of go in without actually learning the skill sets to see if it's even right for you. I'm sorry, I got off track with the question, but
No
that was
worries.
my answer with the priorities.
No worries. I love that. And yeah, I mean, I agree with you in a lot of things, right? Especially when you say, and we talked about this before, treating clients as partners, right? Until they give you a reason to do otherwise. In my business, I basically do the same. I even call it, partnering, and not just, I'm not a vendor, I'm a growth partner. That's what I like calling it. But yeah, I completely resonate with everything you're saying. And just out of curiosity, what are your goals for the next 6 to 12 months in your businesses? Like, what do you want to get to?
So, I want to get to a point where I'm gonna be realistic about it too. At the same time, I want to at least get every month. I want to get at least one new client, and that's just for it could be for the consulting side of things or for accounting. That's one thing, right? That's so eventually with the accounting stuff, I want to grow it to a point where I'll have like a group of a team to just work on the stuff, so I don't have to do the day to day. I'm more of like, I'll go back to my original role, which was like a CFO role, and kind of like look at the overall aspect of things and delegate. So I'm heading that direction eventually, and I'm working on it. So that's that side of the business. I'm also looking to actually invest in real estate myself personally. I actually spend a lot of times creating my own spreadsheets, formulas that you're not gonna find anywhere else. I analyze deals for people a lot of times, and they all use different kind of like formulas and sheets and stuff like that. But I don't know if you understand what the DSCR stuff is, like debt service coverage ratio. But lenders are always looking at that, and I'm creating like a formula for that and to figure out what's the pricing for it. So I love real estate, so this is not just accounting, and I'm trying to actually do real estate analysis and stuff like that. My other side, my other business is construction. And last on Friday, I actually put out a bid, for construction of like a 2-unit residential and a commercial, two-floor commercial in Philadelphia. So my construction, I mean, I had to draft everything up and, have my team finalize it, and then I send it off. So I'm looking to have that as a, construction, work. And if it's not, it's okay. We still have our regular clients that we're helping fix and flips and renovate. So there's still steady work there, but I wanted to get to the bigger commercializing it really, rather than just stick with a few, clients that we have. I want to expand that on the high level, on a higher level, is what I'm looking to work with my partner in. That's really, those are my next steps here, for this year at least.
Okay.
Yeah, it's nothing too extravagant or anything like that. But I think in terms of if we, for everybody, but really saying it for myself, is that you have to know yourself, how much you can handle, what you can handle, and what to delegate. If you're not good at something, like it's not good to try to learn it all on your own and then try to do it. It's just better off delegating the work, and focus on what you're really good at and excel at that. Once you excel at that, that's your, that would probably be your gift, right, so to speak. And everybody has certain talents, and if you just go with that, money will come, right? Because money is always a big thing. Everybody goes into business for what? For money. But
Yeah.
I think if you follow, the rich, the wealthy people, and where they made it from rags to riches, you'll hear that money, after they get the money is not a thing for them. They just want to win. They want to
Yeah.
win because that's the competitiveness. And I'm a very competitive person naturally, even when I was a kid. So I'm trying to reframe my mind that it's not just about the money. It's about, can I get it done? Can I do it? Put myself in that situation, and just, if I don't know something, figure it out. I'm more of a problem solver. I think majority of accountants are problem solvers. So it kind of comes in with the territory, right? So
Yeah.
then there are times we look for the problems to solve. It's like, nobody will see the problems, but we will see the problems. So I think that was that's what I think. I'm just trying to find my strong, like, I found it, and that's what I focus on, is solving problems for people.
I love that. I think that you're so right, right? I think accountants, CPAs have that mentality of problem solving. The way I look at things, it's you guys like solving puzzles, right?
Yeah.
More so than problems. You guys looking at everything and then seeing how everything fits. Because at the end of the day, just like a puzzle, right? Accountancy, right? Numbers, they tell a story,
Yeah.
right? And it's the story of the business. It's the story of the building. In your case, what would be like the ultimate goal, if there's one so far, right? And by that I mean, are you thinking of, the businesses that you have? Are you thinking of one day exiting, or are you thinking of legacy, or you're not even at that point where you're thinking one or the other?
It's funny. I just had that conversation with my wife about that.
See, you were one step ahead of me in every single question. Now it was my turn.
So with the accounting, there are a lot of people. If you read, you follow with, the Accounting Today website, all those stuff, and you'll see like this accounting firm got bought out and stuff like that. I'm not. I have a lot of emotional attachment to it, although I tell myself I shouldn't, but I do, is because I put a lot of work into it. Right, I put a lot of work, and it's not just an accounting firm for me. Once I grew out to to a big thing, it's because it's the relationship that I built with people, and because I want to be in real estate, and all my clients are real estate investors. It's kind of like giving that treasure away. It's like, well, no, I don't want to do that. But I guess I would say my ultimate goal for like the accounting is to grow it really big, and maybe the best, hopefully, to just take over in the whole US, to take on all the property management, take on all the real estate investors, because I think that it would just, every year there's always going to be new investors. There's always going to be new investors where they are just learning about it. They want to get into it. Well, I can help that, with consulting, understanding that, a lot of the people that you've been through, like you're going through, there are hundreds of people already been through what you're doing, right? So, and I firsthand work with so many investors. I mean, I worked for Trump at one point. I mean, I don't know how much more real
Yeah,
estate can that be, right?
exactly.
So I just want to be like the best at that. The biggest, probably, I don't know. I haven't thought about that too much. I would say I'm very competitive, and whether you're gonna put this on, the podcast or not, I did had a interaction with a company who's actually a competitor. They're on a bigger scale now, right? But they had an interview with me and everything like that, and they ghosted on me twice after going.
Okay.
So again, for my competitiveness, it's like, okay, you want to do that to me? All right, I'm going to be your biggest I'm going to be the biggest competitor. So that's what's driving me. That's what's
Yeah,
driving me right now. Just because I just don't like to lose. I don't like to lose.
I know the feeling. I know exactly what you're talking
I don't
about.
like to lose. I'm willing to. The thing is, I love helping everybody out, and I think it's a win-win. I look at real estate and in life and in just regular, business, right? There's always a win-win situation. Everybody can benefit from it one way or another. There doesn't necessarily need to be a loser. Okay, these are for the audience who are into real estate. They understand that they're talking about win-win solution is that there's a buyer and seller, right? And sometimes if the buyer is willing to give up a price, they win. If they get that pricing, and the seller is willing to pay for that price, they win, because they have an ultimate goal at hand. And if the number works for them, it works for them. That means they're gonna make it. There are people who's not going to be like, that numbers doesn't work for them, because everybody has a different strategy, what they're looking for. Back to accounting, right? When you're looking at P&L, you don't just look at the P&L. You have to look at the cash flow. Now, the cash flow is, there are people who are targeting investors like, oh, I only want $100 in cash flow for a property. Then there's some investor who's like, I don't care for the cash flow. I just want to get this house because I know the value of it, if I fix it up, going to be increasing. So this investor is looking on the appreciation value side, not the cash flow side. So everybody has a different way of doing things in real estate, and that's where accounting kind of comes in handy, and like trying to teach them, what's your expenses at and whatever. And they don't care. then we look at your balance sheet, stuff like that. And it's about win-win situations. And I personally, as much as I love being in competition with a lot of people, at the end of the day, it doesn't really sit well because, there's, I'd rather not create enemies, right? But it's better off creating, friends and work together. But, I'm the type where if you kind of, trying to like ghost me or do something bad to me, then I have to return it the same way. I'm not just gonna sit there and let it go. That's not my
Yeah, of
type.
course.
From New York, by the way. I'm from New York, born and raised. That's where the attitude, mentality comes from.
It's
That's just like
understandable.
me.
Yeah.
And I grew up in, I grew up in, like, I wouldn't say slums, but we're talking about some of the projects and ghetto areas, and so it's like that's also why it drives me too. So I understand, and I understand how hard it is and the struggle that everybody goes through, especially now. The economy is, everything's just more expensive. Inflation, ever since COVID happened, inflation goes just ridiculous. So I'm always trying to help everybody out as much as I can, at least with my whatever I'm capable of. If I can, I'll do it.
That is, I think that's a great way of looking at things, and that's a great I don't know way of, I don't know if motto, but at least like way of handling yourself and your life, right? If you're able to help others, why wouldn't you? I think I really believe that if you're able to, the better. It's just, I mean, at the end of the day, whether people believe in karma or not, I do think that you reap what you sow. Yeah, you reap what you sow, and just helping others eventually be like, eventually you will see the fruits of that, right? Whether it's in karma or just, something else. But yeah. I understand. And I believe what you're saying. And, we're getting, we're at the 40 something minute mark. I do have a few more questions, but I don't want it to, to go over the hour, although I know that we could keep talking and I'm having a lot of fun with you and learning from you. But I have this kind of a funny question, but I like asking, and bear with me for a second. But if you had a magic wand, that you could wave and solve like one thing in your business or businesses, what would that one thing be?
Solving a one thing, or like it's like a wish.
Exactly. You have like a magic wand and you say like abracadabra, boom, and you solve one thing. What would that one thing be?
I wish I could clone myself, to be honest.
Okay.
Cloning myself.
And why is that? What is it that you want to clone yourself so you can do what stuff? What would you delegate to your clone, for example? What would you do? What would you delegate to your clone?
See, that was the thing. If I myself can do all that, just one person doing all that with multiple clones, it would grow exponentially, and I think, because the mindset I have is that, not losing, and I'm stubborn and I have to fix things. And, forget the clone, but, if we have, when I was hiring people, at my old places, there are certain attributes I was looking for, and it's like really down to paying attention to details and just being skeptical about everything you're looking at. And when you're skeptical of looking at things, you're questioning things. When you're questioning things, that where, you're giving, it's almost like triple checking yourself, right? But that was a thing that, because if I'm doing everything, I can't really catch my own mistakes. And I think that's why I put, like, anybody that I would take, have on my team are very diligent, don't rush things, and, just question things. That's all. That's not just in business. It's really in life. Just question things. Don't be robotic. Don't be robotic.
Yeah.
So I know I say this, I've been referring to like the business, but then I refer it back to just life in general. It's just because I look at, and I mean, think about this. Every entity act as a own person, right? So we should kind of think of it that way. If an LLC is like it's an entity, so we should treat it like it's a person kind of thing. So I'm always looking at it that way. Whatever I can put into my life, I should be able to put into a business. And if I'm going to be treating people right in person, I would want to do that same thing in business. Treat everybody right. Be fair. But I know I got off topic with the whole wand thing and the wish, but it's really simple in terms of what I want. Is just that, anybody who comes in, who around me, are just more like, just question things, be more diligent and everything. Don't rush things. Rushing is the biggest mistake you can do. And that's why I used to never use calendar until I had to use a calendar, because I like to remember everything. That's the thing. I like to remember everything, but at some point you can't.
I really appreciate you bearing with me and the questions and just being here and being as open, and excited about answering questions as you were right at the beginning. So just two more and I'll let you go. First one would be, what is your biggest frustration?
My biggest frustration will probably be sometimes talking to clients or partners, right? And there's going to be disagreements to certain things. One thing I do is what is it? A CYA policy, cover your own ass policy. And I've taught all the people that I hired before, always cover yourself and by doing screenshots, whatever kind of trace things. But that doesn't even really work when you are doing a business, because if a client's questioning you things and you just bring it back to them, that doesn't do anything. They don't care. They don't care. They just want you to get it done. But there are times that I get mad. I will have to calm myself down, because I had the backup that you told me to do it this way and I did it this way. Down, 6 months down the line, you're telling me it shouldn't have been that way. It's, well, you kind of told me that, and I had the backup for it. But then, I draft everything long, I would draft something long and then I put my frustration out, but I delete it, because nothing's going to come out of it, nothing good, unless you're willing to, dissolve that relationship. But you really have to truly ask yourself, is it, as a business owner, you have the ability to fire people. Right. Yeah. It goes both ways. Do we fit? Is the client going to be fit for you? Can you fit for the client? That's where, the interaction in the beginning happens. But, always in the beginning as a business owner, you're always trying to get the customer in first, right? It's always about taking it in, then deal with it later. But usually it's like that. And then, down the line, you're working with them and turns out they're not exactly it doesn't fit with your environment. When you're working, you would like to have happy clients and stuff like that, but not someone who's micromanaging you. So that's one of my biggest frustrations is that, finding out later on that they're difficult. But I would just calm myself down and not really think about it. If I truly want to keep having them as a partner or not, and that's where that whole partner, first become partners, but if you give me a reason, I'm going to put you down as a client. And then when I'm going to treat you like a client, when it comes to being a client, it's more of like a black and white kind of situation. We're partners, you're willing to go the extra mile. And that's what I do. I go the extra mile that they don't even know until I do all this and find this information out for them. They're like, where is this? Thank you. And they're so appreciative. And by doing that, you're also helping them, you're helping yourself out, because they will refer you. Because if you do a good job, they will refer you. And that's how I got all my business. So while it's frustrating to deal with that kind of, I think at the same time, I look at it myself and, I read that book, How to Influence People and Make Friends and stuff. And
How to Win Friends and Influence People, yeah.
Right, I read that, and the biggest one is, what will Lincoln do? And
yeah,
put that note away and not send it out. It's like same thing. Just everybody's gonna have some frustration. Rant it out, whatever. Keep it to yourself though, because it might just blow out, and then everything's gonna be fine afterwards. It might be that just moment.
Yeah.
So that's something I had to really learn on my own.
I agree. That's something where, thank you for sharing that. I think that's one thing that it also took me a while to learn, right? Yeah. And it wasn't even with clients. It was, clients, coworkers, when I used to work, for someone else, my boss, my superiors, and even in my business, right? Like my business partners. And I would write it out and then I would delete it. What I do now is I go to ChatGPT and write everything there, right? And what do you think? What's my tone? And it'll be, well, you know what? Can you help me soften it a little bit, right? I want it to be polite. I want it to be like this. And then I'll make the decision of whether to send the cleaned version that ChatGPT gave me or not to. But yeah, that is something where now I use it a lot, definitely. Because I'm like, because there are times where it is better to just keep your mouth shut and not say anything, but there are also other times where it might not be the second, third, fourth time, right? And you also need to say something. And I think that's one of the key things about a partnership, right? Because if it's a true partnership, then you should be able, to speak your mind and say, hey, I don't agree with this, right? Or let's look at it a different way. But yeah, and anyway, and the last question that I have for you, Simon, is what does success mean to you and what does it look like?
What does success mean? There's so many things about that. For me personally, success is that I built something with my own hands. I don't have to be a millionaire as much as it'd be great to be. But I think that's just, and I also follow Bruce Lee a lot. And, the goal, you have a goal, but it's not necessarily always be accomplished, but there's something like a path that you still go towards, and you just might have to take a detour, but you should never, throw away your goal. Your goal is always there. And my goal is just to be my own boss, right? Ever since I was young, I wanted to be my own boss. I think I succeeded in that to some extent, but it's not where I want to be. Exactly, right? I want a whole group of, I want a whole operation, which I'm working towards. But even after that, I don't think I would ever be fully satisfied of what I do, is because it's just human nature. We always want better things. Even if you make $1 million, you want to make $2 million. You want to keep going. And it's about winning from there on, right? And I would say that, in success is, for me, is being content with the lifestyle I have, that if I don't have to worry about expenses anymore. I don't have to look at a price tag on things, which is not too realistic. I understand that to a lot of people, because as accountants, we're always looking at numbers. It's kind of like saying, it's like, what?
Yeah.
It's like, how much can I expense this? But it's kind of like an idea, right? That if we can afford it and not hurt our pocket and it's not going to change a lifestyle, I think that's considered success to me. And be able to travel around, be doing things. I'm still going to work. I'm never going to retire because, you know, once you retire, your brain's it's going to fall apart. So always got to be active. To be able to just constantly work at your own leisure, at your own time, and anywhere in the world, if you were traveling, I think that's the success I kind of look at. I would think I'm pretty successful already in terms of how my life, my childhood bringing, I was, you know, if we're talking about the projects and stuff like that, I think it has already done a major change. I don't even curse as much anymore. You know, that's when you don't when you don't do that, that's a really good thing. I mean, you know, because there's a lot of frustration when you're growing up and when you're broke. It's very frustrating. I get that so much, but I think just being content, really look deep down in yourself and say like, am I good? If I like at a job, right? When I was working for someone, I know I won't be truly happy even if I'm making a lot of money. I just wouldn't. Just because I know that there's someone also managing me, supervising, and I'm replaceable. So until you can say, I can leave this place and not worry about getting another job, I think that's success.
I love that. I love that. And I've been in that position before. And it definitely feels great when you're able to just say, hey, you know what? Thank you very much. I'm out. So definitely. Awesome. Simon, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Of course, anytime. I've actually had a great conversation with you. Now, a couple of conversations, and I've had a lot of fun. I've learned a lot from you. So definitely thank you for that. And just for the people, you know, that are watching, what are your, like, do you want to do a plug for your website or anything? Just do it right now.
Just accountingproperties.com or CFO-LLC.net. My information is there. And, you know, if you're ever into real estate, just in general, analyzing deals, it doesn't have to be accounting stuff related. You just need to analyze a deal if it makes sense. I can provide help with that.
Awesome, Simon. Thank you so much. We'll put your information, you know, down below either way, but thanks so much. I appreciate it. And to everyone, have a great rest of the day.
All right, you too. Thank you.